Mrs. Doris? Commissioner Doris?
Hi.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you for attending our regular monthly Board of Commissions meeting here at our Sinahanya office. It is 12:04 p.m., the 13th of August, 2024. All right, so before we get started, let's take our roll call. Commissioner Joyce? Here. Thank you. Commissioner Delia?
Here.
Commissioner Rice?
Present.
And Commissioner Corpus? Present. Thank you. We have quorum. All right, moving along. Item number 2, board meeting and public announcements. This is the first printing of Tuesday, August 6, 2024, and the second printing Sunday, August 11, 2024. And you can find that in your packets for our live stream audience here. If you have any questions on it, we'll be moving along. They're both printed in the Guam Daily Post on the 16th, which is August 6th, Tuesday, 2020. Seeing none? Okay, thank you. Moving along. Item number 3, approval of previous board minutes for the 23rd of July, 2024.
Vice Chair, I only have 2 that minor corrections.
Yes.
The first one is on page 2 of 11, on the 3rd bullet, where it says results are as followed. It should say results are as follows. And then on page 6 of 11, on the first paragraph, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th line up from the bottom of the paragraph where it says SI for the carryover allocation of the 2022, it should say sign as the State Housing Finance Agency to sign for the carryover allocation. Those are the only 2 errors I've noticed.
Thank you, Madam Director.
Mr. Chair, since we're on page 6, if I could just make a correction on the minutes. It starts with the paragraph about the full 3rd paragraph where it starts with Mr. Florig. If you go to the last sentence, it says the microphone, or excuse me, second to the last, the microphone was muted. During that recess period, it was actually unmuted.
Unmuted.
Yes.
Thank you, Legal. And for the record, previous meeting, the 20 minutes was used, and nothing less or more or less than that was used during that recess.
Okay, I'd like to also page 8, 16 line down under agenda item. That thing should read funds instead of runs.
Thank you, Commissioner. Reiterate, please, which?
Page 8, under agenda item, 16th line down, should be funds
Not
instead
runs.
of runs.
Thank you. Runs is not good. Commissioners, any questions, corrections? Inputs? Thank you. Legal?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Anything?
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. So I have no any questions. May I get a motion on the floor to approve the previous board minutes, please?
I move that we approve the minutes of the board meeting on July 23rd, 2024.
I would just add with corrections.
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
With questions. Thank you.
I
Thank you.
second that.
Thank you, Commissioner. And may I get a show of hands, take a vote? 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you. Motion passes for the approval of previous board minutes with subject to grammatical corrections. Thank you. All right, moving to item number 4, new business. Intent of award, RFP GHURA-24004. This is for the professional services installation of security cameras. Madam Director, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. Our apologies, but we need to table that line item at this time because it's not ready for the board's approval. So it will probably be at the next board meeting. So we can please table that intent of award until the next board meeting.
Will do. Thank you. Noted. Thank you, Madam Director. We will table this. Again, this is for RFP GHURA-24-004 professional service installation of security cameras. We will table this for the next board meeting. Thank you, Director. All right, moving along. Resolution FY 2024-021. This is a resolution approving the write-off tenant accounts receivable. Madam Director.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Resolution number FY 2024-021, resolution approving the write-off of tenant accounts receivable. Whereas the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, GHURA, is the Guam public housing authority that provides decent homes and suitable living environments for Guam families of low income to afford to pay for safe, sanitary, and decent dwelling accommodations. And whereas the governance and well-being of GHURA is vested in the Board of Commissioners, BOC, and empowered by 12 Guam Code annotated Chapter 5, Section 5104. And whereas the BOC resolution number FY 2018-002, a resolution adopting the write-off policy for uncollectible amounts or accounts, for GHURA rental properties. And whereas in the normal course of business, the authority is involved in transactions that result in monies being owed to GHURA for which they are unable to collect, and as necessary, whereas the property site managers submit summaries of debts considered for write-off to prevent overstating of assets which are affecting the authority's financial performance. And whereas currently GHURA's receivables include outstanding accounts which have remained in GHURA's books for over 90 days as of May 31st, 2024, as indicated below. And the property site is AMP1, Asset Management Property 1. The write-off amount is $25,877.13. Property site AMP2, the write-off amount is $13,304. Property site AMP3, the write-off amount is $53,638.40. And property site AMP4, the write-off amount is $3,165.48, for a total write-off amount of $95,985.01. Whereas GHURA, through the property site managers, exert diligent collection efforts in pursuit of outstanding receivables, and although ongoing collection efforts are abandoned on these accounts, GHURA reserves the right and duty to collect should the opportunity arise. And whereas it is in accordance with GHURA's procedure and good business practices to write off accounts receivables after all reasonable collection procedures have been exhausted and there is not a reasonable expectation that the accounts will be collected. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners approves writing off $95,985.01 of GURA receivables after all reasonable collection procedures have been exhausted and there is not a reasonable expectation that the accounts will be collected. And your board packet did include the recommended write-off account tenants receivables all the way up to page 13 for each separate AMP location. And I do have the property site managers available should you have any questions on their write-off tenant accounts receivables. And I think in keeping with a request that was made prior to show like a 5-year trend in the write-off amounts, each AMP did include the write-offs from fiscal years 2019 to 2024. So if you'd like to ask any questions, they are available to answer them.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
before we move on to a discussion on this resolution, I'd just like to point out, as it was brought to my attention, that on page 3, which is a chart there,
Yes.
it looks like social security numbers were inadvertently placed on the chart. So before anything is put on the record, that staff will redact all that information from the documents, and that also includes if you look at page 9 on the comments, there was a social security number that was there, so that'll also be redacted. But the staff will go through all these documents before it's placed on the record to redact accordingly.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Not good. Okay. Thank you, Madam Director. All right, Commissioners, any questions? We have our app managers here available.
I do have a question. So I'm just reviewing, like, if they give you a 30-day voluntary, right, that they are leaving, what's the challenge in trying to collect the fees? Because if you're giving them 30 days to move out and they have to out process, right, because I'm sure there's paperwork that they have to complete, what's the challenge in collecting their fees?
Well, currently, everything is done digitally. So it goes through a software program called Rent Pay.
Okay.
And many of them, for some reason or another, have defaulted on the monthly payments, right? And so, for instance, I see on my record, I only have one voluntary. Most of them were terminated for disconnection of utilities or non-payment. So in that case, we usually do collect. I only see one or two that actually voluntarily moved. Most of these are abandonments or in some cases hidden income, and then it eventually shows up, or unreported income. I can't speak for all of the AMPs, but that's if you can see some of them, and then some are death. For instance, I have one person that their debt is $11,000, which is that was unreported income and a death. The mother was the head of household, and they never reported the daughter's income. And then as we tried to collect, we found out that she worked graveyard shifts and would sleep during the day, so we would only be able to leave our documents at the door. And we leave messages, and of course, if it has to do with collections, many people don't return calls. So we had no choice. We tried to work out a promissory note with her, and it just wasn't working out. You'll see some others have defaulted on promissory notes, which requires them to make good on the tenant account receivable, the 100% of the tenant account receivable, in order to avoid termination.
Okay.
So many times they can't, and for a lot of our residents, understanding that they're low income,
Yeah.
anytime they come across an extra money, it turns into I'm gonna buy something that I've wanted, or it never really comes out to, I'm gonna pay some old bills because they're in that type of situation.
So a lot of these, like, so for example, this is AMP1 I'm referring to, the
Yeah.
first page, right? So for example, this is a voluntary, you know, from the, I guess, the tenant, and the rent was too high. So the 6,000 is just accumulated rent that we never collected on a monthly basis. The 6,000, oh, sorry.
She's up.
Hi, this is Narcisa Ada with AMP1. So yeah, for that particular one, that was cumulative. So that was rent for a few months that accumulated to that amount before they actually vacated. And in regards to your question, the challenges we face with voluntary ITVs, that was your question, right? In collecting rent. So yeah, that is a challenge, because if they have accumulated rent and we haven't collected at the time that they move out, I think it's, as managers, the one thing that we do encourage is for them to try to make payment on that. Otherwise, they may have difficulty coming into the program at a later time. So that would be the main one,
Okay.
to try to get them to pay down.
Thank you so much. That was, I just wanted to have an understanding of that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, site managers, but I believe this listing does go to the Department of Revenue and Taxation, so that I believe they garnish from their wages if they are you know, working elsewhere on Guam. Is that correct, managers?
Yes.
That's what I
Your
remember.
tax refunds. It's sent to DRT to collect any tax refunds they may have, to include adult family members. So it's not just from the head of household. We also collect from the adult family members who have signed a lease and who have also lived in the unit with the head of household. So we have those numbers also forwarded to DRT to make collection.
So if we write it off, right, and then you collect it, where does that get applied to? Or how does that get applied? Because we already wrote it off, right?
It's written off on our it's written off on our TAR account, but the amount is still there. The tenant's amount will reflect $5,000 that he owes GHURA when he was terminated from the program. If he wants to come back, he has to clear that balance before he's even accepted under the program. With the debt collection being sent to DRT, we collect that amount, whatever amount that individual receives from his tax refund. We collect that, and it lessens his amount on the account. So technically, even though we wrote it off on our ledgers, it's still on the tenant's account listed that that individual has an outstanding balance until we fully collect from revenue and taxation from any tax refund that family may have received.
Okay,
And that's nationwide. So if they apply in Texas for public housing, it's gonna flag
stays
them.
with them.
And then they're gonna,
Yeah.
they're gonna try to collect for us, or have them the tenant, former tenant contact us to try to clear their account.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean,
So
it'll
it's
eventually,
universal.
yeah,
So it's wherever they go.
that's correct.
Okay.
But still,
I'd
to
like
follow
to
up
kind of,
on your question.
if I may, I would like to kind of clarify a little bit of how we write it off on our general ledgers. So there's two methods. One is a direct write-off and one is the allowance method. And so what we're doing is we're using the allowance method. So we go into the tenant's account in TAR, and we transfer it from their TAR, their rent, onto collection loss. And so all we're really doing is accounting and recording an allowance for bad debts. So that will then, when we run the financial statements, you'll see the AR then minus the contra account of allowance for bad debts and our doubtful accounts, I'm sorry. And then, but we also do an expense, we debit an expense, a bad debt expense account. So like even if the tenant does pay, we don't hit the AR right away. It goes because the system is doing the allowance and doing the bad debt. It will reverse the allowance that we did and kind of make it like, okay, now we kind of have to put back the AR, and now we got the money from DRT, so we're going to now pay that off, and the allowance then is going to be decreased. So and that's why Philly said that we still keep track of them, but they're in the AR, but they are included in the allowance for doubtful accounts, which decreases the AR.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Francis. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
I think Commissioner Cook has that question.
Just to follow up on that, we have a 5-year write-off, but we don't have any data on collections. If it was intended to the IRS, Internal Revenue, when they were garnished from that, would GHURA have a number like return from each one? Now, you just mentioned the tenant will be, it'll be placed in their file as payments towards them, but what would be the total number of, say, we're 5 years ago, we have a total write-off, and I can't see the total amount here, but it's 14,671. How much of that was collected back, and where did that go? Did it go back into our the pool for GHURA? You know, there's no indication on where how we collected it, what we collected, more than that. Am I making sense?
Yes, I understand. I understand the information, that need for your information of, I'm thinking that you're probably trying to see how effective the DRT is, right? So that would have to kind of be on another spreadsheet. Then we're going to have to kind of pull that out, simply because like how I mentioned before in the accounting, once we go into the tenant's account, it kind of reverses itself and puts itself back into the accounts receivable. And then when we apply the payment, the accounts receivable is no longer there. So to kind of mesh it together will be kind of more convoluted than more to help you make some good decisions on our accounts receivable. But yeah, we're going to have to kind of give you that in another chart and another information. But just for the record, and just now from what the DRT payments that I've seen, we've collected over $60,000. So it's pretty effective. But yes, if you want something like that, I would have to then do another chart for that.
Thank you, Ms. Francis. Question, thank you for quantifying that for us. That $60,000 collection via DRT, what's the time frame on that? Like,
so the time frame is about maybe about about 3 weeks to a month. It all kind of depends on DOA's process. So we have our process. We so how we get the money back from DRT is MIS sends information over to Department of Revenue and Tax, and then as the tenant gets a refund, I don't know how DRT says, hey, you know, this Social Security number is what GHURA is going to garnish. So then they garnish their pay, and then they give us a fax and say, hey, you know what, we've garnished this many people. So then what we have to do then is turn around and kind of invoice them and say, okay, we want our money back, and these are the people that we know that DRT has garnished. So DOA, can you now pay us for the garnishments, the tax garnishments for our tenants? And then from there, then they kind of it takes about about three weeks to a month for them to now say, okay, we kind of deposited into your account. Now here's the amount, and we have our invoice, so we know that that amount is for these tenants that we've asked for reimbursement for.
thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm thinking that Vice Chair, were you really asking the 60,000 that was collected? Was that like from 2024 fiscal year 2024? 2024, 2023.
Yes.
I think that was the question, right?
Well, Ms. Francis described it perfectly, and alongside what she described, to that point, what was the specific time frame? Is that, if we contrast that against what Ms. Francis said, is that an average of 3 weeks to a month to garner that amount, or naturally it just depends on the people that they were able to actually garner?
So the garnishment will really only happen when the tenant has a refund. So if the tenant turns in their tax return and they have to pay, then we don't garnish anything. But the minute they Department of Revenue and Tax sees that they have a refund, then they garnish that based on what we've provided DRT with, the information that we provided them.
Got it, thank you. Does the garnishment only pertain to a refund or their salaries?
No, just to their refund.
Okay, is that policy or law, or is that arbitrary?
No, we had to, I believe we had to kind of put it in, and if somebody who has institutional knowledge, I know in order for us to do this garnishment, we have to get it, I think, approved by the legislature. So I don't really know the law, but I'm sure it's that high where we have to get approval to garnish their tax return.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Francis. Appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome.
So what other, you said collection efforts, so what other collection efforts are made?
In addition to this,
I mean,
Well,
just you guys or
Just in.
yeah, it's just in-house.
in-house?
Yeah, it starts in-house, and then after, so we send them a certified mail, and if they, and a lot of them do receive it because we get the receipt back, but they never respond, or they haven't responded. That's how they gotten on this list. But sometimes they do come back because they want to come back to public housing, but unfortunately, it hasn't been the case recently. A lot of these folks, they'll move off island, or they'll just, even their phones are not working anymore.
So, but I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of my question. I'm trying to think of like the collection efforts, right? So a tenant doesn't pay. How long do you guys give them before you say, okay, you know what, you got to get out?
Yeah, there are processes that we follow.
Okay.
We give them a 14-day letter after they haven't made their monthly payment. And the 14-day letter basically says, come and make an arrangement with us, or come and make, or pay this bill. A lot of times they will ignore it. So then we start to contact them. And if we do get in touch with a resident, sometimes they will come in and make the payment, or they will, in some cases, sign a promissory note. And if they default on that, then they have no choice. We have to terminate if they do, unless they pay the balance in full. And then that's when we get into situations like this. I'm sure it's different in many, many cases, but, or they'll abandon the unit as they know they owe us a lot of money and they don't know how they're gonna pay it back. They'll abandon the unit, and then we're left with with everything, even cleaning costs.
Right.
So it really depends, case by case. We go after each one of them, and sometimes we do get paid, and sometimes we don't. It really depends.
So the time period would be like, for example,
90 days.
Oh, so now if they don't pay it within 90 days, so someone can accumulate.
But we have to go through the process. We have to go through the process. We have to contact them.
Correct.
Make contact, and then after that, the clock starts.
after the initial.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for example, you're in your AMP, right? Let's go with line item 22. They owe 11,000 in
Yes.
rent. How did they get there?
This is the
months.
woman whose daughter was working and she did not report her daughter's income, and not until their annual recertification did we catch it. Because then we run EIV, which is the.
And that's where you have
income.
to give them the notice to.
Yes, no, we don't give, we try to make arrangements for them to do, to adjust their monthly payments.
Okay.
With a prom note. However, during that period, the mother died.
Okay.
And the girl freaked out. Young lady,
Okay,
This is the one I was saying, she works graveyard at a retail
right.
area, retail place. So we were never able to contact her for maybe 3 months because she would sleep during the day. And finally, when we did, she came in and she just, I can't do it, I can't do it.
Okay,
Being that she was young, she moved in with other family members somewhere else. And now we're in the process of, we've been trying to collect, but of course, she's not answering our calls.
okay.
If I may add something also to, I think the challenge in terminating those who have past due rents, right? Especially post-COVID, during COVID and post-COVID, I did see a lot of notices from HUD saying that, to try to prevent adding to the homelessness situation, it's like, don't terminate because they're behind on rent. Try to work everything out, find as many ways as possible to try to help them pay their past due rent before you terminate. So it's like, getting guidance like that kind of makes it hard for them to, okay, you're 60 days late, we have to terminate you. It's like every effort has to be made to make sure that they tried a promissory note, they gave them, extra time, etc. And then I think what happens with a lot of these is that because they're past due on their rent, they're also past due usually on their utilities. Now, disconnection of utilities is where they have no choice. Our site managers have no choice but to send them termination notices because that's a health and safety violation. That's a serious violation with HUD. So yeah, trying to not add to the homeless situation has been challenging to try to collect rent as well. And disconnection of utilities is usually the last straw, and then they have to terminate them.
And so
Good afternoon, commissioners.
Hi.
This is Gina from GHURA M2. One of the things I wanted to add to the reasoning behind the amount in the TAR write-offs being so high is through the process of terminating the families, we also have a grievance process. And during that process, everything kind of gets placed on hold. The rents start to accumulate over the months while they're going through the grievance process. So sometimes at the time that we're doing the final termination after the hearing, if it favors GHURA and the tenants end up having to move out, that could also be one of the reasons why the amounts are so high. So it's not necessarily that the rent is only what is inclusive under rent. It could also be the promissory note and unreported income, as the other property site managers had mentioned earlier. So in the case of my app, for example, you're going to see that of 6 write-offs, 2 of it represents, really high amounts. So it could represent unreported income and also an effort to place the family under a promissory note that failed. And towards the final termination, all of those amounts, after the debt has aged over the period of 60 days, those are the amounts that we bring to finance to ask them to write off. So I don't know if that helps explain as far as the rental amount write-offs being so high. I just wanted to add that in there.
Thank you, Gina. I also wanted to ask also, so we've had a lot of programs, right? Like federal programs that could assist your tenants. So is that something that you as property managers would guide them through that process or send them, to it?
It has been, however, in some cases, especially the habitual late or habitual non-payer, they go to ERA and exhaust it. And then as after they exhaust it and they paid us for
cut them up,
yes,
right?
for the bulk of let's say 2021 and 2022, when they get to 2023 and they have no other source and they're habitually non-payer, they run into this problem. And now they don't have another program that they can go to. There's quite a few on this list that have,
Done that.
yeah,
Okay.
and it's only caught up to them 3-4 years later. So yeah, we were actually, I think late 2022, we were instructed to, you run into anybody, send them to ERA, help them get it, and we did that.
Yeah.
And after they were rescued, they basically didn't learn their lessons.
And so with that also, I know that you guys also have some sort of like counseling, right?
Yes,
To
we do.
where is that something that's offered to them so that way they can really understand, you know, where the
Yes, yes.
situation that they're in? Okay.
Yes, in fact, we're now transitioning to a public housing specific counseling through our, I guess, and for our program coordinator there is going to head that program.
Okay. Because I mean, I do see like the people that come in, right? And I'm
Yes.
just, I'm always wondering if they really understand what it's like to be part of the program. And you know, those are things that I just always kept in the back of my mind. So, okay, I get it.
You did define the ERA?
Oh, emergency
Emergency rental assistance.
rental
Oh,
assistance.
Yeah.
Thank
The
you.
This was
government
a
gave a lot of money.
COVID program, one of the programs after COVID.
Okay, got it.
Thank you. And I have a collective question for all the app managers present. Before the tenants are removed, what's the most challenging or most pervasive obstacles collectively that is the most common denominator that all of you are encountering that's leading up to these individuals, aside from victims of circumstances such as death, illness, etc. But what is the most common pervasive challenge that all of you collectively as app managers are experiencing? If you all had to just, this had to be like the most number one reason why we're encountering collection issues, what would that be?
For AMP1, this is Narcisa Ada. I think all the managers will agree, just in general, the financial struggles going on now, power, water, utilities are pretty high. The one thing I noticed since I started back in 2015 is the high closeout amount at the time that they move out. I noticed that. You know, when families come into housing, the one thing we try to encourage is for them to respect the unit. And I'm finding like a lot of damages to the unit at the time of move out. And so, as Patrick mentioned, internally with public housing, what we're trying to do is have our coordinators set up a program, sort of like our Renters 101, with different topics such as making rental payments, you know, reporting damages to the unit in a timely manner. So just in general, a lot of educating the families. Yes, we try to work with them as much as we can and with the programs that are presented, but at the same time, you know, I think they need just more education about things that they encounter as a family and in the unit every day and monthly.
And I'm gonna assume that it's not hard or it's not challenging for them to report these things to you, right?
It really isn't. We have
You know, because some people,
we have
right?
I'm assuming
procedures.
there's an emotional aspect to it, because I'm assuming fear is a
Oh, yeah.
leading cause for a lot of these guys to be quite reserved about being upfront and transparent with you folks, right? So, and that's in addition to what you were saying.
I think for a lot of people, it's a strange thing to have someone come into their house, a stranger come into their house just to change light bulbs or to fix something, right? And then there's also the idea of, I'm not gonna have to pay for this. So they don't report these things, and they just assume that it's gonna cost an arm and a leg when it really doesn't.
So there's a misperception.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I guess that training 101 would really also help as, I guess, just as a refresher or, more knowledge. So yeah, education's always going to, help them get better. Good. Okay.
Hi to the other managers, thank you. Is there anything you would like to add to what Patrick just finished off with?
Come on, guys.
Okay, so me personally, we want to give our kudos and our appreciation to all of our managers. They're clearly doing a job that most people probably wouldn't want to do. So we want to give the credit where credit is due. In addition to that, I don't personally like seeing our accounts being written off. I understand there's a fallback system via DRT, but again, because like you were saying earlier, there's legislative third-party entities that need to get involved, so everything defaults on time. And going back to what collectively all of you were saying, education is paramount. So if we could collectively, the board, I think they would agree that if there's anything in addition to what you already are doing that needs to be addressed to expedite the minimization of our collection accounts in the near future, please let us know. We'd like to get to, we don't live in a perfect world. In a perfect world, we wouldn't be writing off anything. However, we want to be able to bring this number down as quickly as possible. And even from a social psychological perspective, informing and framing it to our tenants in a way where, yes, there are pros and cons. This is a reward and punishment. There's a potential punishment in, but if we frame it correctly in a way where we treat our tenants as human as we are, I believe that fear-based driven mentality and the ignorance, because confusion is too much information. Ignorance is a lack of information. So they're either confused or they're ignorant. So it's our responsibility to make them understand exactly that, hey, we're here to assist you in every way, shape, and form legally, and also protect you. But we have in order for us to scratch your backs, we need you to scratch ours too. So again, I want to thank the app managers for being here. And again, from this day forth, let's do our best, because I already know all of you are doing everything in your power to do that, excuse me. But let's do our best to bring our collections down substantially, because again, we're pushing 6 digits, and that's a lot of money. And again, no fault of your own, but we're looking at the reasons why. And I believe, aside from victims of circumstance, a lot of this could be prevented. And again, no fault on your own. It's a means to an end. So collectively speaking to all the ad managers, if there's anything that you need in addition to what we are already doing, please let us know so that we can work well with you and get what you guys need as quickly as possible. So the commissioners, is there Commissioner Torres?
No, I just noticed, I was just looking at the graphs and, like hand 3 is like, hand 2 and 3 are up, like, and are those the biggest hands?
No, we're not. We are located in areas that are far from population. I mean, from work populations. I'm in the agate pneumatic ring, so once you hit PD and you hit that long stretch of road to Navy, that's 10 minutes of nothingness. Right. And it's hard for people. So if you can imagine, the ones that live down in agate or Pneumatic or Risa, they're usually from there. Right. They have a connection to the place and they understand the drive. But then there's the others. We have the I'd say I have a 50% population of migrants who are just getting used to living in a program. Mm-hmm. And those folks, they're there all day. A lot of them don't have work and they don't have things to do. So some of the charges you're going to see here are cleanup charges or I don't know if it's listed on here, work order. There's not a lot of work order charges, but those are other things that how they accumulate. receivables.
At that amount,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's just, that's why we're down in AMP2 and AMP3. There's always going to be this fluctuating occupancy. We're working our butts off to try to get to some sort of normalcy, and I think we're almost there. AMP3 has had difficulties for many years, but I believe that we're finding ways to fix that. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's hard to the people down there, they drive long distances for work. Cocos Island is closed down, so there's no work there. There's really not a lot of work down south. So
Yeah,
it's always been this way.
yeah, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
When you look at that four, the collections are looking great, right? Or something,
Yeah.
so, and fours were again,
Cause you know, we can't memorize which building
Totu
is
and
for
Derrida.
which.
Totu and Derrida.
yeah, so there's a lot of
Yeah,
work.
there's a lot of activity, work activity around there.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think it's getting those populations up to the
Yeah.
work sites, right?
Yeah, and you'd assume that they'd work at Navy, but if they worked at Navy, they couldn't afford to, I mean, they couldn't qualify for our program. So, yeah, that's where we run into difficulties down there.
You know, maybe public transport is partnering with public transportation to get them up to the work sites or something.
Yeah, it's difficult. The nearest bus station for GRTA is our office and the mayor's office. And our office happens not to be in the middle of our housing. Burrito is a little different. I think they go to the mayor's office as well.
We go to the mayor's office.
Yeah. Which is not that far from our housing in Burrito, but Yamatic, it is far. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are reasons why people live there and why they don't. But we've got we're marketing our locations now. We have pamphlets and and I'm trying to work on for the other amps too.
Yeah.
Well, M1 at least for now.
Mr. Pat, a quick question. Some of the reasons listed here for reasons of termination is say multiple unit damages, unit issues, and unit issues. Can you English that? What does that mean?
Multiple unit damages.
Unit issues first, and then multiple unit damages. Is that either caused by the tenant or is it an outside influence?
Oh no, that's caused by the tenant.
Okay.
Yeah, I can explain. So just recently we had our inspections, so we enter the units to do a sweep. We were surprised by one of the units we came in. There was a missing sink in the bathroom. The toilet was broken, and they had not reported it. And those are the types of things. I don't know if she's on this list, but one actually took their screen door off and made it a barbecue grill. Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting stuff there, but yeah, a lot of times there's broken windows, and we can identify whether let's say there's kids playing outside and they threw a ball through the window.
It was an accident.
Yeah, we can identify whether it was an accident or it was caused by someone inside throwing something towards the outside. I mean, our guys are trained to identify those type of things. There's some damages that you can't avoid. There's wear and tear, and then there is destruction, or blatant damage,
right? So when you identify if it was done purposely, case in point, a woman or a man who used a screen door for a barbecue pit, what happens to that tenant? Assuming
the extent of the damage, right? Then we have to terminate, because in the rules they're supposed to take care of their units.
Strike one. Only one strike.
Depending, yeah, it really depends. Someone like that was an ongoing thing.
How do you quantify it if that's it?
How many things are wrong with your unit? You just didn't care. Okay. And you can tell. You walk in and there's all the screens are pulled off the windows.
Or just blatantly destroyed.
Yeah, just blatantly. They didn't care about the place.
Sure.
And you can tell those who take pride in having a roof over their heads.
Right.
I mean, so tenant unit issues, those are the types of things.
So I was going to ask you, what is unit issues like? What does that mean? Because it's very ambiguous for many people watching that are not employed like a GURA. So yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. What is a unit issue? And multiple unit damages usually caused by the tenant.
Yeah, well, multiple unit down, but the unit issues, can one of the other PSMs speak to that?
Yeah, what would be what's a unit issue?
I don't have it.
Unauthorized,
Oh,
like
okay.
unauthorized tenancy by other people. That's an example.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Norma. But I'm assuming that's just one of a number.
Yes, that's just one. There's multiple issues.
What's the most
But
common? That's the most common. That's the most common.
For AMP1, hi, good afternoon. This is Narcisa Ada, because I see one on mine. For that particular one, because it is a 30-day voluntary, and I did see unit issues there. For this particular one, it was residents' preference to leave.
Okay.
Because of unit issues. So it was their, they want a larger unit, bigger bedroom.
So that's by definition. So unit issue is a
Yeah.
case by case. Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Ms. Norma. Thank you, Ms. Dada. Okay, commissioners, any other questions? They're all here.
I'm good. No more questions.
Okay, Madam Director, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, to all the app managers, thank you for your time and being with us today, and thank you for answering our questions and providing us the clarity that we're after. We'll definitely be in touch, and as always, please let us know if there's anything that the board could do to assist you further to expedite your goals and objectives. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, if there's no other questions, may I get a motion to approve resolution FY 2024-21, resolution approving the write-off tenant accounts receivable for the amount. Yeah. May I get a motion, please?
I will make a motion to approve resolution number FY 2024-021 to write off tenant accounts receivables in the total amount of $95,985.01. So legal, do I have to list each AMP amount or state each AMP's amount, or is the saying the total okay?
The total itself is
That's okay.
fine. It's already listed in the resolution. Once that's executed, it's enumerated with regard to the amounts per amp.
Okay, thank you. So
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, motion passes. Oh, excuse me, may I get a vote on the floor? Excuse me. Vote please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the motion passes. Thank you. All right, item number 5, executive director's report. Number 1, project updates, and number 2, division updates. Madam Director.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. So I'm actually going to do division updates. GHURA's been quite busy with many things since I last did our executive director's report. So I'll try to go through it as quickly as possible. Anyway, the first thing is that GHURA's FY 2023 audit was completed in June by Ernst & Young. And there was a July 6th article in the Guam Daily Post, headline, GHURA gets clean financial audit, but some costs questioned, which was from the OPA. But as in years prior, we normally have the independent auditor, and in this case, Ernst & Young, present the audit to the board to answer any questions regarding its report. But due to scheduling conflicts, they are not scheduled to present the audit to the board until our September meeting. So they will be presenting, and then you can ask them questions should you have any regarding the report. And we'll have staff forward it to you ahead of time so you can read through it before that meeting, okay?
Thank you.
Yes,
And
thank you. Director.
the next thing is that on June 28th, Governor Lulian Guerrero issued Executive Order Number 2024-02 relative to establishing the Attaining Housing Commission, consisting of the directors or designees from the following agencies: the Guam Housing Corporation, Guam Economic Development Authority, GHURA, Department of Public Works, the Office of Homelessness and Poverty Prevention, the Guam Environmental and Protection Agency, the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, Guam Waterworks Authority, and the Department of Land Management. Its first meeting was held on July 26th, wherein a chairperson and a vice chairperson were selected. OHAP's Rob San Augustin is the chairman, and I was selected as the vice chair. We will be scheduling quarterly meetings, if not more regular meetings. And it really is reading through the executive order. It really has to do with discussions on what the challenges are for people that's impeding their being able to attain, whether it's home ownership or even attain rental, right? Affordable rentals. So our duties and responsibilities are really going to be about trying to talk about the existing statutes and administrative rules and regulations that create the impediments, measures to address high interest rates or to address the skilled labor shortage that's not helping with trying to build more affordable housing developments, et cetera. And so there will be a roundtable discussion, and of course, during the course of those meetings, they will also receive input from stakeholders such as the Contractors Licensing Board, the Appeals Board, the Professional Engineers, Architects, and Land Surveyors Board, Joint Regional Marianas, Realtors, Laborers, et cetera. So there will be more information forthcoming as the commission meets. And then on June 21st, Mark Chandler, who is the director of the Office of Community Planning and Development at our HUD Honolulu field office, sent a 45-day notice to Governor Lulian Guerrero regarding the timely expenditure of CDBG funds by GHURA. He indicated that as of June 17th, Guam was on track to meet the CDBG timeliness standard on August 2nd, 2024. HUD considers an insular area grantee in compliance if 60 days prior to the end of its program year, there is no more than 2.00 times its annual grant remaining in the line of credit. Unfortunately, Guam was non-compliant with the CDBG timeliness standard on August 2nd, 2022. It was at 3.18 its annual grant. And on August 3rd, 2023, it was at 3.17 its annual grant. And if Guam's expenditure ratio exceeded 2.0 for the third consecutive year, which was August 2nd, 2024, it would have fallen under the sanctions policy with a grant reduction and an informal consultation with HUD regarding its non-compliance. Thank goodness, with a lot of hard work from our team from the various divisions, we, at that time that the letter was sent, I believe we were at 1.91. So we were below the 2.0 ratio, which was quite a feat because if you think about it, we had going on 4 years of funding to expend. It was, I could maybe have Kathy give what the total amount was of funding that we were finally able to expend in order to meet timeliness this year. So an official letter confirming that GHURA met its CDBG timeliness ratio on August 2nd, 2024, will be forthcoming, and we will make sure that we share that letter with all of you. But again, thank you for your patience and understanding while we were going through our non-compliant years. But I believe that We know what has worked to help us do the expenditures this past year, and we will continue to proceed in a proactive rather than a reactive mode from here on. I'm very optimistic that we will continue to do well with remaining in compliance with timeliness expenditure of CDBG funds, which happens every year on August 2nd. So our next target is August 2nd, 2025. I don't know if Kathy maybe has anything to add to that, or if any of the board members has any questions. No? Kathy, did you want to add anything before I move on?
Yeah, hi, fellow board members. Simply that it was an extraordinary learning curve to understand how the changes in the development and construction environment were so profoundly impacting what we all knew to be the way things worked. The timelines for finishing projects is much longer than it ever used to be. The costs of construction and the level of detail that we've had to put into this process has yielded us a lot of a very painful education, but we got it. As for the question that the director asked of or posed, the how much, and you see what we were able to accomplish with the funds. We didn't lose. We have not lost one dime of any of those funds. They've gone into the acquisition of affordable housing from a duplex in Agana Heights to 21 units in Jico. And we are working now through for those projects to be rehabilitated. They didn't, no building comes without issues. So those are being worked on heavily by the A&E team and the procurement folks under the guidance that we have from HUD. We've also managed to procure what will be Guam's bed for a night shelter and a property in Agana to continue to assist the homeless. So there's a lot yet to be done moving forward with the acquisitions that we made with these funds. But we also didn't just rely on that. We worked very hard with our subrecipients to try and move forward through their struggles as well. There was so much COVID money that many times it was bumping into one another. The funding sources were just simply whacking one another, trying to get out into the communities. But that meant that a lot of our regular monies were put to the side, unintentionally, but still, simply because there were timelines on spending and engaging the public on the COVID monies. And it is 2024. And we have one COVID fund directly related to COVID that we are still using. And after that, we have an ARP fund that we will be engaging in the coming year. So we still do have projects. We still have lots of goals and objectives to hit. And we're going to do so with a lot better understanding of how our bread and butter movement of money projects through construction projects has just been changed, and the nature of our ability to move the monies then has had to move with it.
Commissioner Torres?
So just for my clarification, so the previous 2 years of non-compliance is that we're not able to expend the monies that we're given?
Yes, in a timely way. Yes, they give you, well, we receive an approval, an authorization for $3 million. Of that $3 million, the bulk of it, around $2 million, gets spent on brick and mortar projects. Facilities construction has been the government of Guam and nonprofits have greatly benefited from the use of CDBG funds over its 20-year or more lifespan. Longer, excuse me. 40 years out here, where we have been using them to create new or strengthen existing facilities. And that's one major piece. But the timeline to get from approval of a project, every project that goes in for funding, we have every year's funding, we have projects picked for it. But they started to back up. We weren't able to get, we don't, we've shared through A&E many, you've already heard many of our struggles with respect to materials, materials delays, shipping, cost alone, the permitting processes, the inavailability of H2 workers. And if you have them, they were likely with contractors who were otherwise engaged in large projects, kind of consumed by the military construction issues. But there's certainly no finger pointing. There's just a lot more coordination that needs to happen. And we know what our timelines are, and we're shifting accordingly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Kathy, so if we didn't meet compliance in 2021, 2022, 2023, and now we're meeting it this year, how much altogether were we able to expend approximately to meet compliance this year?
I think, do I even want to go down that road? Okay. It's upwards of, well, our very last purchase was 2 million, 2.5. So we managed to, gosh, I'll tell you.
We could get back to them on it. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you in a spot.
Not at all. I just want to give you a good,
next meeting.
I'll give you a good hard number on that, on how much and what we acquired, and not just for the acquisitions, but for the entire process that we did to meet our workout plan.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, if I can continue with my reports, I won't keep you here till tonight. Okay, and so we will be getting that congratulatory letter soon regarding our timeliness expenditure compliance. Okay, on July 17th, Jocelyn Doan, the new HUD Honolulu Field Director, remember we knew Ryan Okahara from prior visits that he made to Guam. Jocelyn Doan is the new HUD Honolulu Field Director now, because Ryan Okahara is no longer with HUD. She visited GHURA on July 17th and met with myself, and she was the Deputy Director, Angeline Terlahi. She really wanted to meet the community development folks. And unfortunately, Kathy had a prior very important commitment that she wasn't able to attend, but it was fine. Anyways, she was here because she was invited to join the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islander delegation. In acronym is like WIANP, on their outreach visits to Guam and Saipan during the week of July 15th. And that group was here meeting with stakeholders to hear directly from them on funding opportunities that they may not know of and may not have access to for federal funding. To be an ally, a coalition to advocate across the government, right? They also met with the governor's office and several agency heads. Our meeting with her was an opportunity to connect with GHURA and for her to connect with GHURA and learn more about us and to build upon the relationships that we already have with the Honolulu Field Office. So we will be hearing from her more, I believe, because she also is aware that GHURA is going to have a housing summit in December, and I will get to that further on down. But it was a very nice visit with her. Then the next thing is that the HUD Community Planning Development Office, scheduled an FY 2024 risk-based technical assistance, or RBTA, for the CDBG and home programs that we have. And they did that from July 29th to August 2nd. And it was conducted by Rebecca Borja out of our Honolulu field office. So the RBTA is offered as an alternative to compliance monitoring. An April 26th letter to the governor indicated that the primary purpose of the RBTA is to facilitate cleanup and resolution of outstanding issues and findings, and to proactively improve grantee performance, and or to assist grantees in community program development, program design and implementation, all with the goal of a more flexibly managing risk and providing customer service to Guam as the grantee. At an exit conference that was held on August 2nd with Rebecca Borja, after she had been here a week and working with our community development and research planning and evaluation divisions, she indicated, she gave an overview and preliminary results of her RBTA visit. And she says a letter summarizing the outcomes achieved and any issues or opportunities for improvement identified as a result of her RBTA visit will be provided within 60 days after the conclusion of the RBTA. But I have to say that, you know, we look forward to the report because there are several findings that she did indicate in the exit meeting that will be closed. And there are certain, you know, findings that also we were at risk of repayment with non-local funds, but we only have a couple that may still have repayment, but not to the amount that we were, you know, anticipating might have to happen. We were able to resolve a lot of the issues that they were satisfied and said, okay, well, you don't have to repay this or that. And so a lot of good news came out of it. And I think the staff benefited from her RBTA visit. As soon as we get her report, we will share that with the Board of Commissioners. On July 30th, we received notice that the HUD Community Planning and Development Management, the new Community Planning and Development Regional Director, Rufus Washington, and Mark Chandler out of our Honolulu HUD field office are wanting to schedule a Community Planning and Development Management and Technical Assistance on-site visit to Guam and the CNMI leadership, including the governors, our public housing board members, and the Community Planning and Development Program managers and staff. And I think Audrey had been sending notices to the board advising you that the availability for them are the following dates: September 9th, 10th, and 13th. And so we just need to confirm with them what works best for all of you. So maybe before you leave today, if you can just let, you know, decide amongst yourselves what dates work, we can relay the information back to the HUD CPD management group that's going to be coming here. Okay. Okay. Our Deputy Director, Fernando Estevez, was invited to attend FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Assistance, Region 9's Pacific Partnership meeting taking place in Maui from August 19th to August 23rd, which is just next week. He was asked to attend this, and it's an in-person, they're having in-person discussions that will revolve around, focus on matters related to disaster housing and debris management. The agenda will also include time to discuss resilience and recovery plans, projects, and grants. Having the meeting near areas impacted by last year's wildfires will add an immediacy to the issues that will be discussed. and make it easier to involve subject matter experts and stakeholders based in Maui and other critical locations on island to give our conversations additional depth and context while underscoring their importance. That is what the deputy director shared with me. And so he will be in Maui next week for that partnership meeting. Okay, next, GHURA will be presenting the FY 2025 budget for your review this month. And approval will be presented at our September meeting. We'll give it to you in advance. Ms. Fran might be able to give a date on that so that you can review it prior to the meeting date. And then lastly, GovGuam's Labor Day picnic is on Sunday, September 1st at the Ipao Beach Park. You are all cordially invited to join GHURA at their tent, and details will be forthcoming. And I believe I've covered everything I wanted to share with you if you have any questions for me.
You got the list written?
What?
You tricked us because you didn't add it to our
I said,
packet.
did you have the list written?
I told you.
I can send you a copy of my list.
Thank
you.
I'll have Audrey send you a copy if you don't
You're
remember.
you're way too confident.
I was like, wow.
I told you we've been quite busy and we're not even in the full year. So many
Right.
things happening. And actually our staff has been to, we had Mr. Sunny represent us at some solar forum about a week ago. We had Kathy and her planning staff attend the annual planners symposium just last week. We had a couple staff that went to a training off island. And we have more staff that from CDBG that are going to be attending training off island around October. So as those things are confirmed, we will be letting you know. But you know, a lot of things are happening with GHURA because it seems every time we turn around, they're wanting something from us. Any questions?
No questions from me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kat. Thank you, Madam Director. And oh, yes, thanks Audrey as well. She's been inundating us with the dates as well with via the email. So thank her too.
Yeah.
And we all look forward to the 2025 budget as well. And everyone, don't forget Labor Day is September 1st. Yes, September 1st. What are your favorite government? Okay. Thank you, Madam Director. And is that it? Ms. Kat, Madam Director, anything else you want to add before we move on?
Nope, that's it under item 5.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Item number 6, general discussion and announcement. This is regarding the HR item and executive management performance evaluation from our director and deputy director. And we have head of our human resources department, Ms. Kim Berseman. The floor is yours.
Good day, commissioners, Director Liz, and the rest of the colleagues on the team. Thank you. I just want to report, we're still pending a couple more evals. For Director Liz, we have 4 out of 6 that have been received, so we're just pending 2 more. And then for Deputy Esteves, we're about 50%. We have about 3 out of 6. So I'll just kind of private message the ones that are still pending, but thank you for those that submitted. Appreciate it very much. And I hope to report back by September 10th. And you can review what was submitted and vote on it accordingly. Hopefully, that's the plan.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll work with those pending ones. With respect to the ethics course, I want to thank the 2 that completed and I think 1 more through the self-paced method. We need to get that done by September 30th, please. And I will be renewing a couple of, Commissioner Delia, I'll be registering you for your,
Yes.
because you're being due in April.
Okay.
You got mine, right?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner Torres for attending, Commissioner Corpus for completing the ethics class.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, you're done.
yeah.
He attended
Okay.
in
So
person.
do we get a certificate? or-
Yes, I think once we pay the
That's
bill,
proof?
but it's,
That's
Are you
Oh,
bringing
yeah.
mine?
free as of September. They want 100% compliance. So I'm trying to take advantage in getting our compliance. So it includes the renewals, 2 for next year, Attorney Flora and Commissioner Delia. So I'm gonna register them to complete the self-paced module, which is actually very convenient.
Yes.
To go at your own pace.
No, short too.
Sure.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second video is about an hour and 15 minutes prior and afterwards.
And you get the ability to stop where you're at and pick up later. So
You can't
it's
fast
really
forward.
very convenient.
If you try to fast forward, it goes all the way back to the beginning.
Oh, you tried. You tried.
I hit the button by mistake.
Good to know.
It's good.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kim.
Thank
Is there
you.
anything else in addition to that?
Oh, no, thank you. Please join us for the Labor Day. Okay, we can.
Yes.
We'll have fun and we'll eat. Okay,
And
that's
get
it.
it, you get a 10.
Okay, thank you, Director.
Thank you, Ms. Kim.
Thank you.
Okay, well, with that being said, we are scheduled for our next proposed scheduled board meeting on the 10th of September. That's Tuesday. Please mark it in your calendars. Our executive staff will, as always, email you and ask to confirm if you will be attending. Please do your best to finish your evals for Ms. Kim. Also, you will get those ethics trainings done before the end of September for Ms. Kim as well. Please continue to work with our ad managers in terms of if working and determining whether there's anything else from us to, again, expedite our original request of bringing down our collections as quickly as possible, and also preventative measures. With that being said, commissioners, legal, anything you guys want to add? Anybody?
Not from legal, sir.
Okay, commissioners? Nothing? Madam Director, Ms. Cat?
Just thank you very much and have a good weekend after you adjourn.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies.
But I'm already there.
Yeah, we're already there. Thank you, Ms. Francis. Thank you, everybody. May I get a motion on the floor to adjourn our meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, may I get a second?
Second.
Second. All right, show of hands.
Yay.
Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes our meeting for today.
Thank
If you could just call the time.
Oh, the time is 1:26 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Pro Tem, Commissioners.
Oh, sorry, that week of the